It's been a long time coming, but the time has come. Let's get busy. What's good, y'all? It's your man Sipe, back again. Yo, first of all, I just gotta give a major shout out to everybody, man. I've been off this channel for about a year. I gotta give you all a lot of props, man. When I left this channel, I had about 500 subscribers, about 5 videos. And when I came back, when I finally got a chance to really look at the channel and get back to what I started last year, 1,500 subscribers, man. Yo. First of all, I'm like honored and blessed by that. That's really humbling. For those of you that don't know, I actually, my main business is a branding company. So, I do graphic design, web design, apparel, and a lot of that stuff really took off last year. At the same time, this happened. Who's that? It's the Ribby Man. Yeah. And if you don't know what that is, your boy's a father. After 38 years, man, I had my first child last year. Around the time I had to stop making videos was the time my wife was pregnant, and there was just a lot going on. I really went into grind mode with my business because I knew once my little man was born, I was gonna have my hands full, and we were gonna have our hands full as a family. I appreciate everybody who's shown support to the channel over that 11, 12 months. I just really want to thank y'all, man. I'm glad y'all like the content. And I'm really excited because now, I'm able to make more content. If you haven't noticed, there's some changes in the layout here. This is going to be our live streaming layout going forward. And I'm going to be making recordings in this format. So, I'm going to be able to bounce back and forth between what I'm working on. You're going to be able to see on the screen here what I'm working on. And we're also going to have like a large version of it. So, as I'm working on the beats and walking through in live sessions, or even just, these pre-recorded sessions, you'll be able to see more hands-on what I'm working on. And that was just out of request that people had. So, I've been working on my setup. It's not like I was slacking over the last year, building my family, obviously, but, also building my process to make sure I can crank out more content for y'all more efficiently and in a way that's, more visually appealing. I took a lot of the comments y'all had to heart, and suggestions y'all had for the content, and I applied them. So, I hope the wait was worth it, and I hope the content going forward continues to have an impact on y'all and help the community. And I actually launched a line, in case you can't see it in the back here, MPC Gang, complete with hats, that I produce myself. So hats, t-shirts, and we're gonna be working on some other projects too with the MPC Gang, and I actually got the full blessing from Akai. So that's super dope. In Music Brands reached out to me, they saw what I was doing with it, and I built a relationship with them, which is awesome. They're they appreciate the tutorials and walkthroughs I've been doing here on YouTube. Long story short, man, I just really appreciate y'all. It's been so many blessings over the last year. And even though I wasn't able to put out content the way I wanted to, like I said, I stayed active in the community, and I just appreciate y'all for showing love throughout this whole time. Totally different situation, from here on out. We're going to be a lot more efficient. I'm going to be a lot more responsive to y'all, be able to put these, together while being a full-time father. So, that's the part for me that's exciting is, I found a system that's going to allow me to get things done and, take care of my family responsibilities. It just feels dope in here, man. The vibe is real. With no further ado, let's get into this current project. This is a beat that I was working on. Lately, there have been a lot of projects involving like Wu-Tang that have been coming out, like the documentary. I felt like this beat actually is influenced by that era. I'm gonna go ahead and show y'all. Some might call it boom bap, some might call it lo-fi. To me, it's like a fusion. I've learned to kind of like fuse my early roots with some of the new sounds now, like heavier 808s and bass lines, but I'm gonna stop talking about it and just show y'all what I'm talking about. All right, here we go. Woo. Mm. Yeah. So that's what I came up with. I know I let that rock for a little bit, so I'll walk y'all through what I did. I actually sampled it off of YouTube. Any of y'all know my videos from last year? I explained my whole situation, how I lost my record collection when I moved from New Jersey down to Georgia. Truly, I'm a crate digger, you know, at heart. But, you know, in today's setup, man, sometimes you got to work with what you have. And I'm not going to go back and collect, you know, another 2,000-3,000 records, whatever I had at that time. I just work with what I have available. And right now, you know, being as busy as I am, sometimes I just got to sample off YouTube, man. And, you know, just different sources that have good collections. I had to work with what I had. When I go through these, I'm not really going to play the full sample, you know, just for copyright reasons. So, you know, I chopped it just to keep it on rhythm. I normally, when I chop things, I'll really flip the pattern. This one, I didn't flip it that much. I doubled up on some of them, as you can, you know, see in the grid. I just picked a couple sections of the record that I really liked and just ran with it. So, I really just picked two 4-bar sections. Let me flip it over to the software screen. You can see I've you know, I basically repeated it. Yeah, so you know that's what it sounds like chopped up, the second part. Once I chopped it up into sections, which, you know, I basically used the lazy chop feature. And if any of you had questions on how to use the lazy chop, I'm going to be doing full walkthroughs on that part of it in a future video. As you can see on the screen here, on the touch screen, these are all warped samples. So what I did was I wanted it at a certain pitch. Actually, the pitch that I sampled it in, but I did want to change the tempo on the beat. I think the original tempo was somewhere in the 70s, so I wanted to speed it up. And the only way you can really do that without changing without slowing it down, obviously, is through time stretch, or, you know, or warping, as they call it. So basically, I went to all pads, and I went in and I changed the stretch percentage down in the on the bottom side next to the warp button. And sometimes I'll change it by individual pads, but usually in these cases where the samples are chopped individually and equally, you can just start by dialing in a stretch percentage that brings the samples long enough to where they don't cut off. One other thing that I did, a lot of 90s beats, kind of like a trademark of it was making filtered bass lines. Now, a filtered bass line is basically, you take the sample, all right, so you take the loop, now this one, as you can probably see on the screen, I have an EQ on it. That TDR Nova you'll see over here, that's actually an EQ that I've inserted on there, and I've actually filtered out the bottom end of the sample. But what I did was I went to the pen tool and I copied the track, right? And I went over and you can see it's called sample bassline. I basically took the same exact loop, and what I did with the original loop was I filtered out the bottom end. So I took a high pass filter, filtered out the bottom end, so it doesn't, you know, it's not too bassy. And then I took this copied one and filtered out the top end. And what that gives you is the bass line of that loop. And that was such a big practice in the 90s, man. It's like a lot of bass lines. If you listen to A Tribe Called Quest, the Beat Miners, like a lot of really dope producers from the 90s, this was just a technique that we use, man. Like, you know, it was just commonplace. and it doesn't make the cleanest bass lines, because you're talking about these are records. So vinyl records they don't have those really low frequencies. I think they cut off at like, I want to say 80 hertz or something like that, or I can't remember exactly what it is. But those low frequencies, that just didn't exist in vinyl. Those really low 808 style bass lines, you couldn't hear those really deep frequencies, off of vinyl records. But this was the closest we could get, So that's why you hear a lot of bass lines are kind of muddy in the 90s, and this is why, because there were a lot of sample bass lines. And when you're working with samples, off of vinyl, you just got to realize the limitations of that technology. It was analog technology. It just didn't have the ability to do those really deep digital bass lines that we have now. This is the sample bass line technique. And when you add them both together, and this is both of them playing together. So you'll hear that bass line from the loop is accentuated once you put that EQ in there. Now I'm going to show you in the software what that looks like. All right, so this is basically the filtered bass. I really, really took out a lot of frequencies. I just really left this, I guess it's about what, 30 to 200 hertz, just this area only. So, and I compressed it, so it's a lot flatter. Still dirty, but it's not as dirty as it originally sounded. This is what the sample loop looks like. So I'll show you the comparison here. All right, so this over here is the filtered sample, the main loop, and this is the filtered bass line. So you don't have to do it exactly like this, but this is just, what I came up with for this particular sample that I thought sounded best. I took off a lot of the top end because I really want the hi-hats and the snares that I've laid down to punch through. I don't want too much, and I want to leave room for the vocals if a rapper gets on it, or a vocalist, whatever. So I try to leave room for the artist, and just make sure the drums, everything kind of complements and really stands out, because a big thing is there's a reason they call it boom bap, man. Them drums, boom bap, boom 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 bap, so like, I understand that terminology when people call it boom bap, because that's really what them drums sounded like, man. They smack. I mean, this is an outside plugin, but it does have some EQs built in that you can use that will get the same effect. They're just not as easy to control as this. I really like these visual EQs where you can, pull stuff right on the screen, but realistically, you can turn knobs to get the same effect, man. This is just a lot more visual. This was my main sequence that I knew I wanted, to be the meat of the beat. So at that point, it was just about grabbing the drums that, that really fit that soul vibe. Drum selection is such a big part of being a producer, there's no shortcut to that part, to selecting good drums. A lot of people say, yo, how do I get better? How do I get better? Some people be like, yo, buy better drum kits. That's a fact. You can really buy better drum kits. At the same time, you can still pick the wackest drums out of the dope drum kits. So tuning your ear and really working on your sound selection, that comes with time, but it also comes from listening to the greats and listening to people, producers that you like, and hearing the type of sounds that they're choosing and really paying attention to it. Because some people be like, y'all don't understand why my beats ain't hitting. Honestly, drum selection is a huge part. I built a kit just out of stuff that I had, a whole bunch of kits, and I just found kind of a dirty snare that smacked. I found a kick that had some bottom end to it, but a little bit of punch to it. It was actually one of my favorite kicks. And if you listen closely, you can hear some grit on them drums. Almost a little bit of distortion. And I'm gonna show y'all the secret sauce for that right there. Air Lo-Fi. Now, for those of y'all that don't know about the Air plugins that came with that came with the new update, the 2.4 update. 2.4 came with some really great stuff, and one of them, one of the upgrades that is phenomenal is these air, the air plugins. Now you'll see here, this says SP1200. That doesn't come with it. That's a custom one that I made. But what's dope about this air lo-fi plugin is you can throw it on your master channel. It's right there. It's the first one on there. Isotope ozone is just something I use. A mastering plugin to just get the levels right. And XYFX is, when I'm freaking the beat and just messing around. We'll get into that later too. But air lo-fi is my go-to now for making gritty, dirty type beats. And it's really a cheat code, man, because you can make this new MPC sound like an SP1200. People are like, what? Come on now. I'm trying to tell you it's a fact. And I'm going to show you the quick way that I do it. Actually, I'm going to say that for another video. But just know it's coming. And I'm going to show y'all how y'all can make these drums really smack and really punch out using that plugin. So I threw that on the master channel, and that really gave me that really, really dirty drums. All right, now, there's a couple things there I want to walk y'all through as well. I like to make my own break beats. I'll take chopped drum sounds and I'll try to make them sound just like a break beat would. And this is another example of that. So picked a hi-hat that sounded, realistic, had a real soulful, type of sound to it, gritty sound, gritty snare, gritty kick. Actually, the kick is a little punchier than you would hear on like a record, but it still has that. Once I threw that SP1200 cheat code that I have on it, it really made it sound dirtier. But this is actually a kick that I use for trap beats sometimes too, which is crazy. But once you crunch it with that SP1200 setup I got, man, whew, it really makes it dirty. Now it's time to go in and start working on programming them. Now, what I did for this one, lay the hi-hats first. Now, some of y'all can probably hear that's what we call like a lazy hi-hat. It's not on beat. You can actually set it up to where it's directly on the grid. Use your quantize. Up here you can see is 16th notes quantized. It's usually what I use for most boom bap style beats. Actually, I keep it on that most beats unless I'm doing trap with super fast hi-hats and stuff. But most of my stuff I keep the quantize on 16th. And this you can't see it now because I applied it. But I actually have a little bit of swing on the hi-hats. I probably put this up to about 54 up here. Actually, let me bring it so you can see the mouse. I put this up to about 54 and 16th notes here. And that gave it a little bit of swing. And then also I got it set in the settings where once you tap these Q links, it will apply those settings whatever you hit. So if I tap the swing, I'm not going to do it now because it's going to affect it. But if I tap the swing or the shift timing, it's going to move those hi-hats just a little bit. So like, I'll just show you real quick. Boom. You see them moving over, just they nudge just a little bit. And I'll put the shift timing on maybe about 3 or 4. And then you tap another one and you see those hi-hats just shifted over just a little bit. So I'm going to undo that, and it went back. So as you can see, the hats aren't directly on. And a real drummer, and that's the key, is with boom bap drums, is trying to make it sound as much like a soul drummer as possible. And when I say a soul drummer, I mean somebody, a drummer from the 70s that had that funky type feel, that James Brown swing, you know what I mean? Like that type of sound, you're not going to get that by just being super quantized. You're going to want to, you can keep your quantize on, but you're going to have to freak it. And, like I said, swing at about 54 to 56, somewhere in there. shift the time into 3, and it's just going to make sure them hats hit a little bit later than the snare, a little bit later than the kick, which is very realistic if somebody's playing a drum. Now you can see also down here different velocities, and what I'll do is put the hi-hats on 16 levels. A lot of you might know this already. Take your closed hat, put it on velocity, 16 levels, and then play it at different velocities. And you'll hear it sounds more like somebody really playing a drum, you know, playing the hi-hats. So I went ahead and did that. I put the kick and the snare on the same track. And actually, you can see up here, I put a tom breakdown. Now, this is a big part, you know, of the turnaround and building drama and suspense before the next time the loop plays is having that breakdown after 8 bars. Some people do it after 4, some people do it after 16. But having that breakdown, a real drummer is gonna play the toms. Those toms are really dope for breakdowns, and you know, really good drummers will just tear them toms up. So basically, I had 3 tom sounds, and that's usually what'll happen. You know, they'll have 3 or 4 toms, a drummer or whatever, and they'll go down the different pitches of them. And that's basically all I did. So I did that at the end of the loop. Definitely got on the kicks and snares. This is the ghost notes. I talked about those before, but if you guys want, let me know. I'll do a breakdown, you know, of you know how I work with ghost notes. Ghost notes are just basically smaller, you know, lower velocity notes. So this is the kick down here, and boom, 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 boom. This is the boom, boom, that quick little ghost note right here, and it gives it a more real feel. I threw in a cymbal track right here. You can see it's called Crash actually. But I throw in a cymbal track, and basically that's the crashes. And when those toms are breaking down, you'll see I have some crashes here. And let me just pull it up to that part so you can hear. So a lot of times the drummer will they'll splash those cymbals as they're hitting the toms. Boom, 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 psh, boom, 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 psh. So I just threw them in there, you know, for a realistic drummer vibe. So again, a lot of this stuff, man, is just studying music, you know what I'm saying? And just studying, you know, the music that you like and listening to what the, you know, musicians are doing. And you'll start imitating it with the other part of the sample that I liked. And I'm gonna play that now. So I copied it. I copied the drums. Really, just kept the toms. You know, as you heard, and the crashes I actually changed up to. You know, the timing on them, but I kept these ones at the end. This wasn't necessary. You know, I just like to put change ups in the beat, and this change up I felt was something more modern, kind of like Kanye would do, where you add in a little bit of the modern hip hop with the 808 bass line. We already did the filter bass line, so it's got that vintage feel from the 90s, but that's why I say it's more like a fusion beat, because you know we added, you know, just the deep bass line element, and just, you know, kind of brought it up to modern times with that. Sometimes if a beat is just, it doesn't have any breakdowns. The thing about music, man, it's about ups and downs, you know, and you need these crescendos, these things that kind of build up to these moments. So if you just got the same loop looping over and over, that was a lot of issue with the 90s producers, is they just got a little monotonous, you know. Some of them got a little lazy. Some of the greats like Pete Rock, you know, they switch the beats up all the time, you know. But you know, sometimes you know, producers got lazy. I was one of them. I didn't make a whole lot of switch ups back in the 90s and the early 2000s. But as I got better as a producer, I started integrating these things into my, I started making sure I made at least 2 sequences, out of a beat. I kept it simple with the 808s. I did one little bend, one pitch bend, and this is actually a key group. I took an 808 and made a key group out of it. I'll show you the program screen. Actually, I'll show you on the touch screen. Then if you go over to LFO modulation here, turn the pitch bend up to 100, and that's what I like to do. You don't have to turn it up to 100. That's a full octave, the 100. So that'll make sure when you hit something, that'll make sure it bends a full octave up and down, depending on which direction you hit it. So that's one of my favorite things to do. I didn't want to get too crazy with the bends because sometimes people can, with the glides or whatever you want to call them, they can go too crazy with them. I just put one little bend in here. Just that one, that's it. So that was it, man. I didn't really get too carried away with this beat. It was really about the feel and just having a breakdown, to get people excited before the beat came in, and to kind of give artists time to kind of break certain things down, man. It builds up, the climaxes, and the songs, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, those crescendos, those up and downs, man, you want to build it up. So yeah, man, that's it. That's the breakdown of this beat. And once again, I'll play it back for y'all, just so you can kind of hear. Yeah, so that's that, man. I hope y'all, like the beat. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Let me know if there's any parts that were unclear. I'll be, happy to answer any questions as far as, anything I didn't break down clearly enough for you. And a lot of this stuff, I might miss things that I'm doing, because I've been doing it so long. Sometimes I don't pay attention to the little details, but I'm sure you guys will catch them, and I'll be happy to break them down in future videos. Like I said, this is going to be, it's going to be a way for me to knock out videos a lot quicker with this format, where I'm able to switch between screens and I don't have to do a ton of editing. So, I'm going to try to keep them coming for y'all and just really walk y'all through what I'm seeing on the screen, as I'm doing them. So look forward to streams in the future, using this format, more breakdowns, and, just more improvements to the channel, man. I'm going to try to keep the movement going, man. I appreciate the love y'all showed me during my hiatus, man, when I was, like I said, working on my family, working on my business. It's really dope that y'all show so much love and support on the channel, and I'm looking forward to continue to grow it with y'all, and just really answer any questions you guys have, man. So, and if you appreciate the content here, definitely hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'm gonna keep coming at y'all with the new content. That's what it is. Peace.